Welcome. This is Be Well, and I'm Jonathan from your YMCA, and I'm pleased to have our guest today, an expert related to mental fitness. It might be a newer term for a lot of us, so I look forward to us learning about that and how to integrate and apply mental fitness into our life and truly the value of it. Our guest today is Dr. Dara Schwartz. Dara is a licensed clinical psychologist at Sharp Mesa Vista. She's the clinical program developer for all the adult outpatient programming. She also supervises and assesses the quality and outcomes of the various programs at Sharp Mesa Vista and Sharp McDonald. She lectures widely on community topics, including employee wellness, stress, burnout, aging, and dementia. That list of topics has great application to a lot of us at this point in time. So I believe we're going to have an opportunity to touch on wellness in the workplace as well. But as I start off, I want to share with you a quote that I came into contact with recently. And it speaks to mental health is not a destination, but a process. It's about how you drive, not where you're going. And secondarily to that, just because no one else can heal or do your inner work for you doesn't mean you can, should, or need to do it alone. So we're fortunate to have community partners like Sharp Mesa Vista that supports us on that particular journey towards mental health and mental fitness. Dara, welcome. Nice to have you with us today.
Thanks so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So mental fitness, if you would, what does that mean? What, if you give a definition of it or operationalize it for us, what is mental fitness?
Sure. Well, just as there are components to physical fitness, right? Cardiovascular endurance, strength, flexibility, keeping a healthy weight, there are different components to mental fitness, right? Taking care of yourself mentally. And what we mean by that is taking care of your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. In its simplest form, what are you doing as part of your daily routine, right? To keep your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors in the most healthiest kind of form possible.
I like that the parallel, the analogy to physical fitness, that parallel works for me because physical fitness is an important outlet. It actually contributes greatly to, I think, my mental fitness and my mental health. And so what, if you will, so when you speak of mental fitness, what would you say are aspects of bringing through mental fitness?
Sure. So, I think of mental fitness as almost like cross training for your brain, right? Your brain is responsible for so many things. It's responsible for how you think, right? And think about when you get hungry or hangry, right? Like you've heard of that. And what happens to your thoughts, right? They start to get, if somebody came to you with an overwhelming situation, but your blood sugar was low, and you hadn't eaten all day, you might not be able to respond in the most balanced, thoughtful way because you have not taken care of your diet. So one way to work towards balanced and healthy thinking is through diet, and exercise, like you said, but also mental fitness really requires all of us to perform a daily mental health check. And what that means is really every day, just like you'd stand on a scale to check your weight or take your glucose levels, every day taking time to say, where am I at in my thoughts? Are my thoughts running more towards worrisome thoughts and thoughts about the future, things I can't control? Are my thoughts thinking a lot about the past and things that I woulda, shoulda, coulda done? Or am I in a pretty present place, right? So taking time to recognize your thoughts, taking time to be aware of your sleep. How's my sleep been today? How's my sleep been this week, right? Taking time to recognize, how's my connection to others been? Right? Am I saying no to everything? Am I not responding to texts or phone calls? Am I finding reasons to avoid, or am I saying yes to lots of things? How present am I, right? So kind of walking through every day, like a little scan, like you would of your car or, yourself physically, kind of where am I at? Sleep, mood, thoughts, attention, all of those things, and starting to recognize how you're doing. You don't have to remember all this either. It's a simple, like Google, click away. There's something called the mental health continuum. There's lots of versions of them. You just Google it, mental health continuum, and it's almost like a stoplight for your mental health. And it'll kind of tell you what's in the red or what's in the green or what's in the yellow and what to be on the lookout for every day.
I like that. We'll probably put into the chat that mental health continuum just to remind us of that particular resource, because really what I'm hoping for is, as we come away from this conversation, that you have gifted us with these different resources that we can draw on as we move forward. Your example is an excellent example. I think when you talk about hungry, especially we're in the noon hour and there's lunch and whatnot, and how you're not fueled appropriately to take on the day. Sleep as well. I mean, another way of fueling and making sure you're at full resource. Relationships, how important that is to a fulfilling life and having connection and support with one another and offering yourself to another so you feel value. So you've given us a great template to assess our mental fitness. I would wonder if I would think, but come back, I mean, Dara, if it modulates during the day, or if there's an experience that might, set it off kilter. But I'll have you start first with, so we've done that scan, that mental fitness scan. And what if we recognize, okay, there's a few of those things that are a little off balance, but I've got to get to work. What is the prescription to reassert or regain a mental fitness to take on the day as we move into it?
Yeah, I think there's lots of things we can do. It's a great question. At Sharp Mesa Vista, we have an acronym. We love acronyms in mental health care. It's called the Wisdom of AGE, AGE. And A stands for awareness, right? And the awareness piece is you have to know what you need first, right? That's that mental health check. So that's the first step. If you can just start doing that, just being aware, hey, I have thoughts, I have moods, I have feelings, I have sleep. All of these components play into my mental health. The second part, G, is for goals, right? So what goals am I going to set for myself to help move me, if we're thinking of a stoplight of sorts, into the green area in these domains, right? And then just so you know, the E part is effort. And that's the hardest part. A lot of people are really good at, okay, I know what's going wrong. I can set the goal, but then, as the head of the Y, I'm sure you know this, that effort part, showing up, right? Doing the work, setting, small realistic goals around that can be really hard. So in terms of mental fitness, we want to kind of identify where we can get better, kind of like those quotes that you started with, Jonathan. Yalom says, one need not be sick to get better.
Love it.
Right?
Love
One need not be sick to get better, which is really the essence of mental health. The absence of mental illness is not mental health. Like you said, mental health is a journey. So, if we identify what we need, then we need to set up small goals. My sleep was really off last night. I got to go to work today. I got to drop off the kids. I got to, meet this person. But what am I going to do? Sorry, hold on one second. Pardon that. I'm in a hospital. So, we set up a goal and we say, my sleep was off. I have to do all these things, but what am I going to do for myself tonight to work towards better sleep? Well, I'm going to take a hot bath. I'm going to make sure that I'm not watching any screens before bedtime. I'm going to keep my room really dark. I'm going to have a glass of warm tea before bed. I'm going to engage in certain activities to promote it. And when my sleep is still not perfect the next night, because it probably won't be, I'm not going to beat myself up for it. I'm going to notice if I got even a half hour more sleep, and I'm going to be proud of that. I'm going to notice my efforts because I want each success to build on the next success, right? That can be where we get in the way of our mental fitness a lot, is we can be really hard on ourselves, Jonathan.
I appreciate that. I mean, that's where that compounding effect comes, because if we're not a great resource, then the self-talk comes in, and you can move quickly down into that rabbit hole and find yourself in a greater deficit in terms of that mental fitness. I really appreciate that assess goals and effort, because I think without the awareness of how you're entering into the day and what your resources are, and then looking at what you're going to do in relation to that. And then the big piece is the effort that you bring behind it. And having an accountability with yourself. And also, as you said, I mean, the need to give yourself some grace. We're not perfectionists. There is different dynamics that we're going to run into that may create challenges for implementing those goals and realizing it with the best effort. And so to give ourselves grace in this particular process.
Yeah, I do think that's really important. And I also think it's the hardest part. You know, we can be the hardest on ourselves. We can expect the most of ourselves. Like we talked about, one of those things in that mental health check is, how are my thoughts? And like you said, some of those things are not thoughts. We can be pretty hard on ourselves. Our thoughts can be pretty dark and pretty despairing, and we might not take the time to recognize that. And when we do, trying to bring our thoughts back to a more balanced place. Now, of course, there's therapists that can help you with that, but one of the quickest, easiest ways for you to do it yourself is just say, would I talk the same way to a friend? Right? And the
Yeah,
answer is no. Resoundingly no. We wouldn't say to a friend, God, I can't believe you didn't make it to the gym today, right? Like, what were you thinking? One more day that you didn't make it. You said you were going to do something and you didn't get through it. Like, you're just such a failure. You always say you're going to do things and you don't do it. We wouldn't talk that way. We would
yeah,
tell them, yeah, life's really hard right now. There's a lot going on to juggle
yeah,
mentally, physically, from the news, from our environment. Give yourself a little grace.
yeah.
Try again tomorrow.
Yeah, that it's so important for us to remember, because we can be kind to others, but are we be reciprocating that same kindness towards ourselves so that we can be our best? Wonderful example. You touched on something that I think is important. I think about that analogy of going to the gym. And if you're going to meet your buddy, your workout buddy, to go to the gym, you're more likely to show up. And so I just wonder about how social support comes into, whether it's with a therapist, whether it's a friend, but how social connection is related to this whole area of mental fitness.
Yeah, it's so important. It's crucial. What we know is that socializing, we are social creatures. And now we all have different levels of socialness, right? I always get a lot of feedback, well, I don't like to be around a lot of people, or, that's okay. We all have different levels of it. But at its core, 99.9% of us need some form of social interaction. Our brains and bodies were designed for it, right? We're rewarded through eye contact and gaze. Oxytocin, the attachment neurochemical, starts to flow through us when we hold hands and when we hold eye contact too long and when we have sex. So we do need that. We need those dopamine spikes from laughter and camaraderie. And the pandemic has, as we know, really impacted a lot of that for us, for at one point, for a big chunk of time. And then we've gone through these kind of ups and downs with it. So scheduling time to remind yourself that you are not alone, that you have connection, that you have support, is one of the best things that you can do to keep yourselves mentally fit, alert, engaged, all of those things. So, and there's different ways for different people, having a mental health buddy, someone that you can talk to every day and let them know where you're at, right? Oh, I checked in with myself and I'm a little off today, right? I'm going to need you to, dial things up and be there a little bit more for me today. And how are you doing? Where are you at with your mood, with your actions, with your sleep, with your eating, all of those pieces? Having that support is really important.
There's a periodical that comes out weekly that I follow. It's called Fit Insider, and it looks at the fitness industry and business. And I'm seeing come online, and it's because this is what's happening in our collective. A lot more attention being given to this area of mental fitness, and a lot of the large fitness companies are getting behind this and investing in it. Are you aware of any particular apps that you would recommend that might support us in attaining greater mental fitness, either support structures or accountability?
I'm not aware of any particular apps. I do know there's lots of great kind of like mental health daily scheduling apps where you're actually like scheduling your activities every day in addition to physical exercise, things that you can do. So looking for like wellness calendaring apps. We do use the Calm app a lot here for a lot of our patients and our staff. So one of those components of mental fitness is relaxation, right? And we don't mean Netflix. We mean purposeful, intentional relaxation, where you're increasing your oxygen flow in your body so that your brain and your body can work in tandem better, so that you can have more concentration and focus. So doing anything like mindful breathing, yoga, deep breathing exercises, progressive muscle relaxation, but intentionally setting time every day to engage in those exercises or using the Calm app would be a form of working on your mental fitness. I do want to say one component of mental fitness is kind of knowing what you need to work on. And what I mean by that is like, if you go to the gym and every day what you do is you get on the bike for 30 minutes, that's what you do, then probably you're pretty good at riding the bike, right? After a couple months or years, like that's your jam, you love it, it's good. And it keeps you, you're somewhat baseline healthy because you keep doing it. We know it's good for your body, but it's also pleasurable and it's just part of your routine at this point. But perhaps if you went to a different machine or a different class that you've never been at, it might be a bit challenging. It might even be off-putting. You might not even like it that much because it's working different muscles and it requires a different level of attention and focus. And the same thing is true with mental fitness. So if you're really good at you're eating and sleeping and exercise, you like live that pretty well, but you're not too comfortable at journaling and looking at your thoughts and feelings on the page, then what I would tell you is that's where you need to work. That's where the work needs to be. When I, worked as a therapist, I was trained as a geriatric psychologist. So my training is really with older adults. And it was at a time when like there was a lot of stuff around like eating walnuts and doing crosswords. That was like what everyone was at. Well, I have lots of omegas and I do the crosswords.
Yes. Yeah.
That's kind of what mental fitness was, 20 years ago. And what I would tell patients was that's great. Those are good things. They probably bring you a lot of pleasure, and are good for you. But if you've been doing a crossword every day for 20 years, it's not helping your brain anymore. It's pleasurable, it's good, it's still working that well-worn neuronal connection in your brain, but it's not creating or strengthening any new neuronal connections. And that's what we want to do. We want to build new neuronal connections as part of our mental fitness. So we want to do something new. So if you're not great at memory, we want to strengthen our memory by, my husband's grandmother, she passed away, but she was 100 when she passed away. And every night she would go to bed. And before she would go to bed, she would take out a photo album of all of her family members, and she would say everything she remembered about them out loud.
That's beautiful.
If she remembered their birth, right? All of these ways, like, oh, what was their birthday? Who were they married to? These like strengthening exercises. So I really go back to that kind of circuit training for your brain, thinking about all of the components, including memory, including attention, concentration, mathematics, also kindness, also gratitude, also relaxation. Your brain is the biggest, strongest muscle in your brain. Your brain is the strength, right? It's the biggest, strongest muscle that you have.
Yep.
So what are you doing every day to work it? That's the question.
So important. And I appreciate that highlight, because I think about if I'm wanting to get in better shape physically, and I, contract to work with, let's say, one of our personal trainers here at the Y. They're not going to just support me with the things that I like to do or the things that I'm already strong at. They're going to look at, my flexibility, my core. They're going to look at where I might need some work and some development. And there's plenty of opportunities for that. And often we may resist some of that, but as you get to that other side, you feel more well-rounded, more fit overall. And so that analogy again to physical fitness, I think again about so if there's areas that I need to further develop my self-talk, and how do I attend to that? And so do I work with a coach, a therapist, the journaling, become aware? So excellent example to look at those areas that need further development, just in terms of rounding out that mental fitness.
Yeah, really. And it's hard. I mean, we're trying to teach people how to do this in 30 minutes. So we appreciate kind of the largeness of this undertaking, but just thinking about all of the components that your big, beautiful brain takes on every day, your feelings, your thoughts, your actions. That's the simplest way that I can explain it to you. And really thinking about each one of those and saying, how can I improve on this? Where are there opportunities, right, to be better? And then thinking about how to engage in that and setting small, realistic goals for yourself every day, just like you would if you're working on, being a healthier person physically. Because what we know is that your brain and your body, they're inextricably linked, right? One sits right on top of the other. So we should be
All
working on both.
yes. And from everything I read in terms of the research, it's obvious that the pandemic has really impacted our mental fitness, our mental health. And so the need for taking on some of these recommendations and offerings that you're bringing forward is really a gift for us at this point in time. And so if I was to challenge you, Dara, what would be the essential tools that I'd want in my toolbox as I take on mental fitness? And it's probably things that you said, but if I need the hammer, the screwdriver, what would be those essential tools that I'd want in that toolbox again?
I think intentional relaxation is a tool. Gratitude, practicing.
Intentional relaxation, as you said, is not watching
Not
Netflix or
Netflix. That's pleasure. That's something else I would want in your toolbox. I want to make sure that you're doing pleasure, but also what are you doing to, my mother used to always say, Dara, relax, and it would infuriate me, right? But she was onto something. I probably wouldn't tell her that, but like really, like when we get upset, when we get overwhelmed, and these have been upsetting, overwhelming times, we breathe more shallow. We are kind of in autopilot, just doing and trying to get through everything. And so slowing your responses down, reminding yourself, in slowing your responses down, you remind yourself, I am in control of you, body and brain. I have the ability to slow you down. I have the ability to make you not so reactive, to fill you up with oxygen, to help you think clearer, to help you feel bigger and more capable to take care of things just with the act of breathing. I mean, it's a really phenomenal thing that we have with us all the time that we take for granted until it's taken away. And there's never been a better time than in COVID to really think about the importance of breath, because I have seen firsthand people that lose their ability to breathe, and it is devastating. So breath is a tool for the toolbox.
Most definitely. I recognize times that I'm stressed and I'm not even aware, I haven't taken a full breath. And so to me, that's a great key for me to get a sense of how grounded I am, and just my own ability to be present and just to be aware of my breathing.
And so also in that toolbox would be, like we said, gratitude, right? All the things in your life, even the tiniest things that bring you joy, that make us smile, that make you feel comforted, not alone. And speaking of not alone, common humanity is part of that toolbox. The one thing about this pandemic, as much as it has impacted so many of us so differently, and there has been great disparity, at the same time, it is also a unifier. We have all experienced it. Yes, differently, but what else can you say that about other than birth and death? Right? That we have all lived on this planetary pandemic, right? Where your sense of safety has been altered. So recognizing that you are not alone, taking breaths, practicing gratitude, and paying attention to your thoughts and feelings and creating a space to express them, And often the way that we do that is through 20 minutes of journaling every day. And that journaling should never be done before bedtime. And we always want you to reward yourself afterwards. So if you write for 20 minutes, then have that piece of chocolate ready or that Netflix show lined up, to really say, good job. You got that stuff out of your brain onto the page, and now you can look at it a little bit more clearly.
And give the context, why not right before bed?
Well, because sometimes if some harder thoughts and feelings come out and you don't have that separation before bedtime, that can disturb your sleep, because we do realize that bringing that out. So we want it to be time limited. We want to set a timer. We want to have a reward lined up afterwards to recognize the work that you did. We're really good at discounting stuff, at saying, I'm not going to look at that thought. I'm not going to talk about that feeling. But I assure you it's there and it's coming out some way at some point in time. So getting it out onto the page, looking at the accuracy of it, saying to yourself, would I say that to a friend? What would I say to a friend who is having those feelings right now? What would I say to my child? What would I say to my spouse? So doing some of that work, you can be your own therapist for sure.
A fantastic set of resources for our toolbox. So I feel equipped to take on this day and moving forward. Any particular resources that you want to highlight from Sharp that would be important for us to know about?
Sharp.com has a lot of great resources. We have Sharp Health News that features an array of different kind of mental health topics, but also topics on a wide range of physical and health issues. So you can go to Sharp Health News and look at all of the up-to-date information, and there's tons of resources there. I'm over at Sharp Mesa Vista, and we have a lot of outpatient programs designed to meet your need. And Sharp Health Plan is the leading provider of health insurance and a great resource for those looking for individual therapy as well. So we have a whole host. We're really lucky in San Diego to have a hospital system, healthcare system that is just dedicated to San Diegans, that, is really just for us, by us. So it's pretty exciting.
And I just want to say I'm very grateful for our partnership and you offering yourself to us today. On my end, I just want to close with a quote related to mental fitness. And the quote goes, "The strongest people are those that win battles that we know nothing about." So that will be my close. Anything that you'd like to say in closing?
Well, I thank you for including me in this discussion, and I want to thank all the participants today. And, if I can ask all of you to do just one thing, it's to extend yourself a little bit of kindness each day. It's been a really long road these past couple of years, but we're all here, we're all showing up, and just keep doing the work and take a moment to check in with yourself.
Dr. Dara Schwartz, Sharp Mesa Vista, thank you so much for being with us. And to everyone else, please be well until we see each other again. Thank you. Have a great day. Thanks, Dara.